The desperate signal. The coffee in Dr. Marcus Vale's cup had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. Luna Station's xenolinguistics lab hummed with the quiet efficiency of machines that never slept, monitoring the cosmic void for signs of intelligent life. For 12 years, Marcus had worked in this sterile environment, analyzing radio waves, electromagnetic pulses, and quantum fluctuations that might, just might, carry the signature of alien communication. The breakthrough came at 0347 hours, Lunar Standard Time. Lieutenant Jake Morrison burst through the lab doors, his usually composed demeanor shattered. "Dr. Vale, you need to see this immediately." Marcus looked up from his holographic displays, noting the tremor in the young communications officer's voice. In the 3 years he'd known Morrison, the man had never shown such excitement or fear. "What is it, Jake?" "We've intercepted something from the Kepler 442 system. It's definitely artificial." "And Marcus," Morrison's voice dropped to a whisper, "they're asking specifically for us, for humanity." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He followed Morrison to the main communications array where Captain Nora Singh was already waiting. The station commander's weathered face bore the expression of someone who had just witnessed the impossible. "Play it," she ordered. The speakers crackled with static, then cleared to reveal a hauntingly beautiful sound, like crystalline bells mixed with the whisper of wind through leaves. The station's translation algorithm worked frantically, scrolling text across the main screen as the alien voice continued. "To the warriors of Terra, the children of the violent world," the translation read, "we are the Zeridian Coalition, speaking for the peaceful worlds of Kepler 442. Our planets burn. Our people die. The Korth Empire consumes all in their path, and we have no weapons, no warriors, no hope." Marcus felt his breath catch as the message continued. "We have studied your species from afar. You alone among the civilized races have mastered the art of war. You have fought for survival on a world that tried to kill you every day. Where others see monsters, we see salvation. Where others fear your violence, we beg for your protection." The transmission stuttered, filled with what sounded like explosions in the background. "The Korth fleet approaches Zeridian Prime. We estimate 47 of your days before they arrive. If you receive this message, if you still remember mercy, beneath your strength, please. Our children know only songs of peace. Teach them the hymns of war before silence claims us all." The message ended with a series of mathematical coordinates and what the computer identified as technological specifications, star charts, faster-than-light calculations, and energy readings that made Marcus's scientific mind reel. Captain Singh broke the stunned silence. "Analysis, Doctor?" Marcus stared at the fading display, his mind racing through the implications. "The signal's authentic, quantum encrypted in ways we can barely understand. The Kepler 442 system is 47 light-years away, and Captain..." He turned to face her, his voice barely steady. "They're not just asking for help. They're asking us to become their military force. They want to turn humanity into their defenders." Singh nodded grimly. "I'm transmitting this to Earth Command immediately. Dr. Vale, I want a full linguistic and cultural analysis within 6 hours. Morrison, maintain continuous monitoring for follow-up signals." As the two officers hurried away, Marcus remained, alone with the echoing words of desperate aliens who had somehow learned to fear and hope for humanity in equal measure. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, civilizations hung in the balance, and for the first time in human history, another species was begging them to unleash the very violence that had nearly destroyed their own world. The irony wasn't lost on him. Humanity's greatest shame might become the galaxy's salvation. The Council's decision, the emergency session of Earth's Global Defense Council, convened 18 hours after the Zeridian transmission reached Luna Station. In the underground chambers beneath Geneva, representatives from every major nation sat in tense silence as the alien message played for the third time that day. General Patricia Hawk stood at the central podium, her steel-gray hair pulled back, in a regulation bun, her uniform bearing the scars of 3 decades of military service. At 58, she had commanded Earth's defensive forces through the Martian independence crisis and the Europa mining wars. Now, She faced a decision that would echo across the galaxy. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice cutting through the chamber's murmur, "we're not debating whether to help neighbors in distress. We're deciding whether humanity will become active participants in galactic warfare." President Chen Wei-Ming of the Pacific Federation leaned forward. "General, with respect, these aliens are 47 light-years away. How is this our concern?" Admiral Viktor Kozlov, his Russian accent thick with concern, answered first. "Because, Mr. President, if this Korth Empire is expanding through inhabited systems, Earth will eventually be in their path. Better to fight them at Kepler 442 than in our own solar system." Dr. Marcus Vale, who had been quietly observing from the observer's gallery, was called to provide his analysis. He approached the podium with the weight of humanity's first interstellar decision on his shoulders. "The Zeridians aren't just asking for military aid," he explained, activating a holographic display. Their message contained detailed information about 13 allied species across 6 star systems. "They're offering us technology that could advance human civilization by centuries, faster than light communication, energy sources that make fusion look primitive, medical advances that could eliminate disease." Chancellor Maria Santos of the European Alliance raised her hand. "In exchange for what? Becoming their mercenary army?" "In exchange for survival," General Hawk interjected firmly. "Theirs and eventually ours. The Zeridians have been monitoring human transmissions for over a century. They know our history, our capacity for warfare, our technological development. They specifically chose us because they believe we're the only species capable of stopping the Korth." The chamber erupted in overlapping conversations. Some delegates argued for caution, others for immediate action. President Chen called for order. "General Hawk," he said, "assuming we decide to intervene, what would such a mission require?" Hawk had been preparing for this question. "A fleet of 12 ships, our most advanced vessels. 4,000 personnel, including our best military strategists, engineers, and xenobiologists. The journey would take 8 months using our current FTL technology, giving us approximately 3 weeks to prepare defenses before the Korth arrive." "And if we fail?" asked Secretary General Aisha Okafor of the African Union. "Then we lose 4,000 people and potentially expose Earth to an enemy we're not ready to face," Hawk admitted. "But if we succeed, we establish humanity as a major galactic power and gain allies who could help us advance beyond anything we've imagined." Admiral Kozlov stood slowly. "There's another consideration. The message mentioned that other civilized races fear our violence. If we ignore this call for help, we may find ourselves isolated in a galaxy that sees us as selfish monsters rather than potential allies." Dr. Vale added quietly, "The Zeridians called us children of the violent world. They're not just asking for our weapons. They're asking us to teach them how to fight. This could be our chance to show the galaxy that human aggression can serve justice, not just conquest." The debate continued for 6 hours. Votes were called, recounted, and called again. Finally, as dawn broke over Geneva, President Chen stood to announce the decision. By a margin of 53%, the Global Defense Council authorizes Operation Starbridge. "General Hawk, you have 60 days to assemble your fleet and 47 light-years to prove that humanity deserves its place among the stars." As delegates filed out, General Hawk remained behind, staring at the holographic display showing the Kepler 442 system. In 8 months, human soldiers would fight their first interstellar war. The question wasn't whether they would win or lose. It was whether humanity would emerge as heroes or conquerors in the eyes of a watching galaxy. First contact and alliance 8 months and 12 days after leaving Earth, the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Colonel David Iron Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Valkyrie, his weathered hands gripping the command rail as the tactical displays populated with data that made his blood run cold. "Jesus Christ," whispered Major Kim Nakamura from the tactical station. "Sir, I'm reading debris fields from at least 6 different battle sites. Some of this wreckage is still warm." Rodriguez had earned his nickname during the Europa mining wars, where his refusal to retreat under impossible odds had saved 2,000 civilian miners. Now, looking at the scattered remains of what had once been thriving worlds, he felt that same cold determination settle over him. "Chief Petrov," he called to the engineering section, "what's our fleet status?" Chief Engineer Rosa Petrov's voice crackled over the comm. "All 12 ships operational, Colonel. FTL drives cooling down, weapon systems at full readiness. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Before Rodriguez could respond, the communications array lit up with incoming transmissions, dozens of them, in languages the ship's computers had never encountered. "Colonel," called Lieutenant Hayes from communications, "we're being hailed by multiple vessels. The translation algorithms are working overtime, but I'm getting fragments. They're welcoming us. Sir, they're calling us the promised warriors." A new voice cut through the static, speaking in accented but clear English. "Human vessels, this is Ambassador Theiss of the Zeridian Coalition. Permission to come aboard your flagship? We have much to discuss and little time." Rodriguez exchanged glances with Major Nakamura. "Grant permission. Full diplomatic honors." An hour later, Rodriguez found himself face to face with beings that challenged every assumption he'd had about alien life. Ambassador Theiss stood 7 feet tall, with crystalline skin that reflected light in prismatic patterns. 4 arms moved in graceful gestures as it spoke, while large, multifaceted eyes seemed to capture every detail of the human delegation. Beside Theiss stood representatives of 2 other species, Kalari beings that resembled bipedal cats with silver fur and intelligent golden eyes, and Vorthak creatures that looked like living trees with bark-like skin and branches that served as manipulator limbs. "Colonel Rodriguez," Theiss began, its voice carrying harmonics that the universal translator struggled to convey. "Forgive our appearance. We know humans are visual creatures, and we wanted you to see what the Korth seek to destroy." Rodriguez studied the alien delegation carefully. Despite their exotic appearances, he could read the exhaustion in their postures, the desperation in their movements. These weren't conquerors or manipulators. They were refugees. "Ambassador, I need to understand the tactical situation. Our long-range sensors detected significant battle damage throughout the system." A Kalari representative, introduced as War Leader Zeph, spoke with a voice like wind through leaves. "The Korth Advance Fleet arrived 3 days ago. They destroyed the outer colonies of Vorthak 7 and Kalari Minor before we could evacuate. Our defensive fleets." Zeph's ears flattened against its skull. "We had no defensive fleets. We are peoples of art, science, exploration. We build gardens, not weapons." Major Nakamura leaned forward. "What about your technology? Your ships look advanced." "Advanced for peaceful purposes," Theiss replied. "We can travel between stars, manipulate matter at the quantum level, even extend life for millennia. But we never learned to kill efficiently." Rodriguez felt a familiar weight settle on his shoulders, the responsibility of command in an impossible situation. "How long before their main force arrives?" 18 days, answered the Vorthak representative, whose translated name was Rootsinger Kel. "Perhaps 20 if we're fortunate. They bring with them the Devastator, a ship the size of your Earth's moon, capable of cracking planets." The human officers exchanged grim looks. Rodriguez had commanded fleets but never against planet killers. "What do you need from us?" he asked. Thiss's crystalline features seemed to brighten. "Everything. We need you to teach us war, Colonel Rodriguez. We have 3 billion beings across 12 worlds who have never held a weapon. We have ships that can outrun yours, shields that can deflect energy weapons, manufacturing capabilities that could produce 1,000 vessels in days. But we don't know how to fight." Rodriguez stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the alien fleet. Hundreds of ships of impossible beauty, their hulls gleaming with artistic flourishes and peaceful designs. "Major Nakamura," he said without turning around, "begin immediate tactical assessments of all Allied vessels. Chief Petrov, I want you working with their engineers on weapon systems integration." He turned back to the alien delegation. "Ambassador, we'll need complete technical specifications for your ships, manufacturing capabilities, and population distributions. We have 18 days to turn gardeners into warriors." Theiss approached Rodriguez, extending one of its 4 hands. in what the colonel recognized as a gesture of trust. "We know what we ask of you, Colonel. We're asking you to corrupt our peaceful nature, to teach our children to hate, to transform our civilization into something we've never been." Rodriguez clasped the alien's hand, feeling the strange coolness of its crystalline skin. "No, Ambassador. We're going to teach you to protect what you love. There's a difference, and that difference might just save us all." As the human and alien delegations began the massive task of preparing for war, Rodriguez couldn't shake the feeling that the outcome of this battle would determine not just the fate of the Ziridian coalition, but humanity's role in a galaxy where being peaceful was a luxury not everyone could afford. The battle for Ziridian Prime Major Kim Nakamura had 17 minutes to save 3 civilizations. The Korth Armada emerged from hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts, their black ships blotting out the stars. From her position aboard the modified Ziridian vessel Harmony's Edge, Nakamura watched her tactical displays populate with hostile contacts, 237 enemy vessels, including the massive Devastator that dwarfed every other ship in the system. "All units, this is Tactical Command," she broadcast across the multi-species fleet. "Execute Formation Serpent. Remember your training." 18 days of intensive preparation had transformed the peaceful alien ships into something unprecedented, a hybrid fleet combining human military doctrine with alien technology that shouldn't have been possible. Ziridian quantum shields flickered to life around human weapon systems. Kalari stealth generators wrapped around jury-rigged missile batteries. Vorthak bioships pulsed with energy weapons that grew like living tissue. Captain Zara al-Rashid's voice crackled over the comm from her interceptor squadron. "Kim, they're not breaking formation like we expected. These Korth have learned from previous battles." Nakamura cursed under her breath. Intelligence had suggested the Korth relied on overwhelming force and intimidation, but the enemy fleet moved with disciplined precision. At the center of their formation, the Devastator's weapon ports began to glow with ominous energy. "Colonel Rodriguez to all units," came the steady voice from the command ship. "The Devastator is charging its planet cracker. We have 8 minutes before they can fire on Ziridian Prime." Through the viewport, Nakamura could see the blue-green world they were defending, home to 2 billion crystalline beings who had never known war until humans taught them its necessity. The thought of those peaceful cities turned to glass, and ash filled her with cold fury. "War Leader Zeph," she called to the Kalari commander, "execute Ghost Protocol. All stealth ships, target their sensor array." "With honor, Major Nakamura," came Zeph's reply. Dozens of Kalari vessels vanished from sensors, their advanced cloaking technology hiding them as they slipped through the Korth formation like invisible daggers. The first phase of the battle erupted in chaos. Korth ships fired devastating energy beams that could melt asteroids, but the hybrid fleet danced around them with tactics the aliens had never encountered. Human hit-and-run strategies combined with Ziridian speed created a whirlwind of confusion in the enemy ranks. "Direct hit on the Devastator's sensor dome," reported Captain al-Rashid, as her squadron strafed the massive ship's superstructure. "But their hull armor is incredible. Our weapons are barely scratching it." Nakamura's mind raced through possibilities. The Devastator was too large, too heavily armored for conventional weapons. But the aliens had given them tools no human military had ever possessed. "Rootsinger Kell," she called to the Vorthak bioship commander, "can your vessels interface directly with enemy systems?" "If we can make physical contact, yes," came the translated reply. "But the risk—" "Do it. Target the Devastator's weapon systems. All human vessels provide cover for the bioships." What followed was the most desperate 10 minutes of Nakamura's military career. Vorthak bioships, looking like living trees crossed with spacecraft, dove toward the Devastator while human and Ziridian vessels threw themselves into the path of enemy fire. The space around the massive ship became a storm of energy beams, explosions, and the twisted wreckage of noble sacrifice. Ambassador This's voice came over a private channel, strained with emotion. "Major, we're losing too many ships. Perhaps we should—" "No," Nakamura cut off the suggestion. "Your people asked us to teach you how to fight. Sometimes fighting means accepting losses to save what matters most. A Vorthak bioship broke through the defensive fire, its living hull already burning from enemy weapons. Rootsinger Kell's voice echoed across the fleet as the bioship made contact with the Devastator's hull. For the seedlings who will never see sunlight, I plant this final garden. The bioship's neural networks interfaced with the Devastator's systems, introducing a cascade of biological viruses into the mechanical infrastructure. The planet killer's weapons powered down just as Yodir, its main cannon, reached full charge, but victory came at a terrible price. Half the Allied fleet was gone, their debris joining the wreckage of previous battles. The Korth fleet, though damaged, was regrouping for another assault. Major, Captain al-Rashid's voice was tight with exhaustion. Enemy reinforcements are jumping in from hyperspace. We can't sustain another engagement like this. Nakamura looked at her tactical display, seeing the fresh Korth ships arriving. Then she noticed something that made her heart race with desperate hope. Colonel Rodriguez, are you seeing this? The Korth command ship. It's isolated from their main formation. I see it, Rodriguez replied. What are you thinking? One decisive strike. All remaining ships maximum speed toward the command vessel. We take out their leadership, the rest might retreat. It was a gamble that would either save 3 civilizations or destroy what remained of their defenders. As the hybrid fleet accelerated toward the enemy command ship, Nakamura realized that in teaching the aliens to fight, humanity had learned something equally valuable, that some battles were worth any sacrifice. The final charge began with species that had never known war fighting alongside the children of a world that had known nothing else. The outcome would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The new Galactic Order 6 months after the Battle of Zeridian Prime, Ambassador Thys stood in the newly constructed council chamber, watching representatives from 17 different species debate the formation of what they were calling the Galactic Defense Alliance. The chamber itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Zeridian crystals providing structural support, Vorthak biomaterials creating living walls that purified the air, and human steel frameworks ensuring it could withstand anything the galaxy might throw at it. The final assault on the Korth command ship had succeeded, but at a cost that still haunted Thys's dreams. The enemy admiral, a massive creature called Warlord Krex, had been captured alive, but not before broadcasting a message to the scattered remnants of his empire. The soft worlds have found teeth. All Korth forces scatter and survive. We will return when the galaxy forgets how to bare their fangs. Now, half a year later, the consequences of that victory rippled across known space. General Patricia Hawk entered the chamber, her Earth uniform now bearing insignia that represented her new role as Supreme Military Coordinator of the Alliance. She nodded respectfully to Thys as she took her place at the central podium. The monthly security briefing, Hawk began, activating a holographic display that showed the local galactic arm, shows continued Korth raiding activity in 7 sectors. However, their pattern has changed. They're no longer conducting systematic conquest. They're operating as scattered pirate fleets. President Chen Wei-Ming, attending via quantum communication from Earth, leaned forward in his holographic projection. General, what's the status of our expansion programs? Thys felt a complex mixture of pride and uncertainty as Hawk answered. New Harmony Station in the Vega system is operational. The joint human Zeridian colony on Kepler 438b has exceeded all population projections, and the Kalari Human Military Academy on Proxima Centauri has graduated its first class of interspecies tactical officers. The transformation had been remarkable. Human colonies now dotted systems that had been empty space 6 months ago, while Earth's industrial capacity had tripled thanks to Zeridian manufacturing technology. But it was the cultural changes that fascinated and sometimes worried Thys the most. War leader Zeph, now bearing scars from the Great Battle, spoke from the Kalari delegation. The hunting packs have encountered 3 new species in the Outer Rim. All report similar stories. Worlds burned by the Korth, survivors seeking alliance with the coalition that ended the terror. Rootsinger Kell, whose bioship had survived the battle though badly damaged, added with the deep harmonics of the Vorthak language. The seedling colonies sing of strange transmissions from beyond our current borders, messages similar to our original call to Earth. Other species, other empires beginning to take notice of our alliance. Thus studied the assembled representatives, seeing how much they had all changed. The Kalari now moved with the confident grace of trained warriors. The Vorthak had developed defensive capabilities that could turn their peaceful bioships into formidable guardians. And the humans had discovered that their capacity for violence could coexist with genuine compassion. There's something else, Dr. Marcus Vale said, rising from the scientific advisory section. His hair had gone completely gray during the past months of analyzing alien technologies and communications. Long-range sensors have detected artificial signals from the Andromeda Galaxy. Preliminary analysis suggests multiple civilizations, and the mathematical patterns are concerning. A chill ran through Theis's crystalline structure. Concerning how? The signals contain what appears to be combat coordination protocols. Advanced ones. If our translation algorithms are correct, there may be an intergalactic conflict approaching our region of space. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. General Hawk was the first to speak. How long before these signals reach actionable range? 18 months, possibly 2 years, Vale replied. But General, the energy signatures suggest technology that makes the Korth look primitive. President Chen's hologram flickered as quantum interference affected the transmission. Ladies, gentlemen, and respected allies, it seems our work is just beginning. Theis rose gracefully, its forearms moving in the formal gesture of the Zeridian Council. 6 months ago, we sent a desperate message into the void, begging for salvation from a species we barely understood. Today, we stand as equals in an alliance that spans 12 star systems and protects over 50 billion souls. The ambassador moved to the great window that looked out upon the orbital construction yards, where ships bearing the insignia of multiple worlds worked side by side on vessels that had never been imagined before. Hybrid designs that combined the best of peaceful innovation with the hard-learned lessons of necessary war. The humans taught us that sometimes peace must be defended with strength, Theis continued. We taught them that strength without compassion is merely conquest. Together, we've learned that the galaxy is far larger and more dangerous than any of us imagined alone. Ambassador Theis touched the communication panel, opening a channel that would broadcast across the Alliance networks. To any civilizations receiving this transmission, know that you are not alone in the darkness. The Galactic Defense Alliance stands ready to answer calls for help, to stand against tyranny and to prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. As responses began flooding in from across the galaxy, some grateful, some curious, some challenging, Theis reflected on the strange turns of fate. The species they had once feared as Deathworld monsters had become their greatest protectors and closest friends. And now, as new threats emerged from the vast cosmos, humanity and its allies prepared to carry their hard-won wisdom to whatever waited in the spaces between the stars. The age of isolated worlds was ending. The age of galactic cooperation, defended by those willing to fight for it, had begun. In the depths of space, new distress signals pulsed across the void, and the Alliance fleet stood ready to answer them all.